Last summer, I traveled across Fiji, from its capital, Suva, to smaller islands like Luluvia, to the village Somo Somo. My trip was one of many, programmed by Rustic Pathways, a company that sends teams around the world to work on significant global issues. At each destination, my mission was to improve the once vibrant coral reefs. As the trip progressed, I visited more and more coral reefs, each different from the last. Each time, my team and I used various methods to improve the reefs and rebuild them, using regional techniques of coral planting. Now, at each point, coral planting was very different. In some regions, we used different methods like this, where we tied the coral to the bottom of different nets. About halfway through the trip, I was shocked the most, as I encountered one specific reef that opened my eyes to the reality of our oceans. It was a reef off the coast of a remote village, and the reef had been completely destroyed. Now that I was open to the reality of our oceans, I knew that something must be done. The reality is that our oceans are changing, and they are changing because of global warming. Once I returned back to the US, I continued to feel a significant relevance to this issue. And my interest in marine biology that had started in elementary school had grown into a full passion, a passion that has driven me to learn more and to educate others on how we can improve our oceans. 2016 was named the third record-breaking year in a row for overwhelmingly high temperatures due to global warming. According to the Natural Resources Council, global warming occurs when pollutants are collected into our atmosphere and absorb sunlight and solar radiation. Usually, this radiation would be released into space. However, with global warming's increasing pressures, the pollutants in our atmosphere can remain there for decades. And as a result, the heat trapped warms our atmosphere, causing what is known as the greenhouse effect. Although the Earth does have a natural greenhouse effect, under normal conditions, the atmosphere's temperature would be able to restabilize. However, with the amount of pollutants that are currently surrounding our Earth, the atmosphere warms above cyclic levels to the extent where it is causing catastrophic effects on our oceans. I got to witness one of these effects while I was in Fiji. It's known as coral bleaching. Coral bleaching is defined by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration as an event where corals are stressed by changes in conditions such as light, temperature, and nutrients, and they thus expel this symbiotic algae that is living in their tissues, causing them to turn completely white. Such conditions are a result of not only rising water temperatures, but as well directly from runoff and pollution that is entering our oceans today. Though the coral appears to be lifeless, it is still alive, yet now under much more stress and subject to mortality. And as a result, much more coral is suffering across the globe. And in 2005, half of the coral in the Caribbean was lost as a result of a massive coral bleaching event. In the 11 years since then, NASA's research has shown us that the global surface temperature has changed by about 33 degrees Fahrenheit. These conditions continue to threaten coral reefs around the globe today, including the Great Barrier Reef, where scientists are predicting a high 50% mortality rate in the few upcoming years of all of the coral. Overall, each impact that is happening in our oceans is creating an environment that is unsafe for the livelihood of coral and every single organism that depends on it. Through my experiences in Fiji, I had witnessed only one of the several effects of global warming on our oceans. Once I returned home, my passion had driven me to search for more effects, like those on the Earth's poles, specifically the melting of our polar ice caps. Since the beginning of the 20th century, the Arctic region has warmed by about 34 degrees Celsius, or Fahrenheit, excuse me. Furthermore, the Arctic region and its ice has reached a minimum in the summer of 2017 that had not been observed since 1979. The ice diminishing is affecting several different aspects of our oceans. For example, the sea levels are rising as a result of the ice diminishing. And in 2014, that was measured to be about 4 feet. As well, the acidification of our oceans is one major issue, as once the heat is absorbed into our waters, it is not reflected by the ice, it is absorbed, which allows carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases to be absorbed faster. Worst of all, the diminishing ice is hurting the organisms that live there today. Mostly, the polar bear populations are greatly suffering as their stability and their hunting depends on the ice. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, this all sounds pretty bad, but how is that going to affect me in Cleveland, Ohio? Well, how many of you wake up in the morning and run straight to the coffee maker? Or you like to eat bread, or corn, or rice or potatoes? Climate change greatly impacts and reduces the growth of key crops and limits the production of coffee. As a result, the prices at the grocery store and at Starbucks are going to increase. And I'm sure a number of you like to travel. Well, climate change hurts your hopes of snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef, visiting the Amazon jungle, exploring the Southern Alps, and touring countless other spectacular ecosystems. And as the tourism industry declines, it is no doubt that any coastal city is going to suffer from more extreme and more frequent floods, droughts, and storms. This affects not only foreign countries, but our own in states from Florida to California. One way or another, global warming is going to impact our lives here in Cleveland, Ohio, whether it be from our diets to our family visits to our beach vacations. This obviously major issue is not going away, and there needs to be action taken to slow it down. Still, it's hard to imagine how we all could help such a major global issue. But it only takes small adjustments in our daily lives. Try switching to LED light bulbs, using less plastic, or recycling. It as well helps to eat less red meat, less processed foods, and instead at the grocery store buy more organic and more locally grown foods. Lastly, try to reduce the amount of carbon emissions that you put into our atmosphere by going green on your transportation. Try using public transportation more, or carpooling. Anything that you can do to limit your carbon footprint on our Earth is a small push to take down global warming and save our oceans. Thank you.